All yours. Hi, everybody. Okay, so this is our right angle weave rope class. Thank you for joining me tonight. And I hope everyone's having a great Friday. You can see on my wrist and here in the sample, what we're going to make today is what is made out of the stitch right angle weave, but it's done in the round. And it's a really fun stitch and has lots of potential. It can be made with any size beads. You can use size 6, which is what I'm showing here. And you can also use size 8 seed beads, which is what's shown here. In our demo today, we'll be using the 6s. You can use any clasp you'd like. And when you have mastered this stitch, there are some really great embellishments and some other ideas that you can try out, and we can talk about those during class as well. But I just want to say welcome to everybody again. And this is a recorded class. It will be available on michaels.com/classes. Best way to find it is to go to that link, scroll down to the bubbles that say past classes. There's one for jewelry, click on that, and it'll be in order of most recent. So you should be able to find it within, it's usually up by like Monday night or so, maybe Tuesday morning. And we always try to post it and share it. If you create a bracelet tonight or over the weekend, we always love to see everything you guys make. So if you want to hashtag make it with Michaels and John Bead, we love seeing all of your great creations. All right, I'm going to switch my camera so I can show you guys all the materials. That's one of the samples I have in work. Here's an up close of the project. And on this one, we used a toggle, but I didn't highlight a clasp. I think in the handout, there is a listing of what I used on these samples, but for this technique, you can use any clasp you want. So I didn't really highlight a required clasp. Here's one where we did magnetic. And I combined size 8 and size 6. So you'll need your choice of colors. Tonight I'm going to be working with 4 colors. And I'm doing that so that I can highlight to everybody a new row. So I'm going to start each of my new rows in a different color. And it'll look like this. I'm using a size 6. But you can use any colors you like. You can use a mix, solid color, a pattern. There's lots of really fun possibilities with this design, and any beads will do. And you also have a choice of thread. So I'm going to use the 0.8 Wildfire tonight, but you can get away with using 6. If everyone remembers, I'm not sure if everyone in the class tonight was in our Pearl Cuff class, but in our Pearl Cuff class, we went through each of these being okay. And if you're using the 0.6, and even if you're using the 0.8, you can tighten it up by going through and making 2 passes. And I'll talk about that when we get there, but whichever one of these you have handy, grab it. I'm going to be working with the 0.8 tonight. And then I'm also going to be using size 10 beading needles and some scissors to cut the thread. And then the only other thing that you need to have handy are some pliers for putting your clasp jump rings on if you're using that kind of clasp. And also for a little trick I'll show you when you're threading your needle, it can also help to have a pair of these. Okay, so starting with the thread. In the handout, it says to cut about 50 inches of thread. This is a design where you'll be adding thread at least once, maybe twice. On most of my bracelets, I end up adding thread 2 times. So whatever is a comfortable working length for you is great. I said 50 in the handout because you're going to leave 10 of it as a tail. So that gives you, 36 to 40 inches of working length, which is a comfortable length for me. And so that's what I have in the handout. But again, anything that works for you is just as great. And so trim here. And so with the size 10 beading needles, they do thread pretty easy with both the 0.6 and the 0.8 Wildfire, but it's even easier if you use some pliers to flatten the end. And you can get it through a needle a little bit better that way. Once you've got it threaded, bring it down about 7 inches or so, or more if it's easier to pull the thread through. And I'm going to grab my first bead color. So So what we're going to be doing first is traditional right angle weave. It's a really versatile stitch that has so many different applications. And it's built the same way to start. You'll want to pick up 4 size 6 seed beads and string them down to the length you're leaving for tail. So for us, that's about 10 inches. And then just go back through all of them. This is my tail side, and this is my working side. So I'm exiting from here, I'm coming around, going back through all those beads again. So you'll get something that looks like that. And just turn, come up through that first bead. And what you'll see happen here is that right angle weave square. So some people like to call this a square or a box. A star also works, but the feature to notice is the number of points we have, or sides. It's always like a box shape with a thread running circular through it. So each of these 4 is one segment. And in right angle weave, when you build a new segment, you borrow one of the segments from the former section. And then when you join sections, you'll be borrowing more than one segments, one of the parts of, and I'll show you that when we get to that step. But I'm going to do one thing first before I add my next segment. I'm going to go around one more time. And I do that because right angle weave with size 6 seed beads especially is kind of a loose stitch and it moves around while you're working. And if that's bugging you, or it's just, it's adding a little complexity, taking a couple seconds to go through an additional stitch just fixes that right up. And see, now it's not moving on me anymore. I can work with that a lot easier than I could before I did that. So there's segment 1. Let's add the next one. Here's the next 3 seed beads. And turn. And go down through that bead we were just exiting. So really similar to what we did before, but just with 3 sides. Now I'm going to go through all those beads again, just to reinforce. See, they're moving a lot. Okay. And so I went through them again. And now I want to be over here, exiting from this one, because I'm going to add another segment right here. So I'm going to go through these 2 beads. And at this point, I'm starting to try to preserve the square shape. So I'm going through them one at a time. It's okay to go through them at the same time, but sometimes helps it hold shape when you go through one and then the next one separately. So there's segment 1 and 2, picking up 3 more beads and doing that same thing again. And I'm going to loop through all the beads again. As I do that, it gets tighter. Okay. And so I'm going to do this more than one time. So stick with me. If I lose you, don't worry. We're coming right back here. But we're going to make this 3D. I'm starting a new color. So here's what we're going to do. We created our first segment with 4. And then each subsequent segment shared one of the sides. So this one shared that one, and then this one shared that one. I want to fold this into a cube. I want to make this into a cube, so it needs one more side. You've got 1, 2, 3 sides, right? So if I want to make a cube, I'm going to use this as one side and this one. So I just need lids. I need a lid here and here. And so how that looks, she'll pick up 1 bead and then come around and go through corresponding one on the other side, because keep in mind, these two are going to be at the sides, and this will be the lid. When you do that, it's going to fold on itself. And now, I don't know if I can get it to hold up right, but so now I've got a side, and a lid, and I need a bottom. So one more bead. And you see I'm exiting from this one. And I come over here and go through this one. And there's the fourth side, sharing those two arms, and these were the lids we put on it. So you got another square. And this is a perfect little square. It's actually a perfect cube. And in the handout, it shows a step of going around. I'll show you what that looks like. This step's optional. Some people do it, some bead weavers don't. But if you want, you can reinforce it by going around it one more time. Oops, sorry, I jumped. I always take the opportunity to reinforce them. So that's just something that I like doing. You'll see me do that a lot. It means that it's going to stay put. And now I'm exiting from the top here, the lid one created. So how's everyone feeling about that? Should I repeat that before going on? You guys want to see that one more time, maybe in another color?
Danielle, the sidebar is good. I think everyone will definitely want to see you start it again, but for the people who are getting it, maybe you should do the second row and then we start again.
Okay, yeah, let me throw the second row on here, and then we'll go back to the beginning. And this this first part that we just did, that's the hard part. Everything out after this is easy, but we just added the last side of that cube. So now we want to start building up. And before you start building up, there's another thing that you could do is you could go around all of these one time if you want to. That's in the handout as a step to go through, but it's optional as well. It's just another reinforcement. You can choose to do it or not. I'm probably going to skip it because I feel like this is pretty solid. I reinforced all my sides. So I'm going to add the next row. And to do that, we're going to borrow. So all four of these, we're going to use the bottom parts of the cube. We're going to use those as a segment for the bottom of these boxes. So I'm stringing only 3 for that reason, because I've already got this one to be part of my square. Okay, so there's side 1 of row 2. And I'm just going to reinforce it really quick. So I'm going through all those beads again. Oops, sorry about that. Okay, so that's extra tight. Row 1 or row 2. So in right angle weave, there's this concept of crossing an intersection, which is where you go through the next bead over. If you did that reinforcing step, you'll have a strand going like that. But when we're building the brick, the next side, you'll always want to stick with the convention of going up through the next side. So we're going to put a bead here and a bead here to form the next side, because we're borrowing the one we just made and the one from below. And now I'm just reinforcing that. So now I have 2 sides, and I need 2 more. So I need to be exiting from this bead to add my next side. So I'm just going to keep going. And another way to think about right angle weave is what's missing. So here I know I have a side 1 and a bottom. Let me go through the bottom here. But now I know I need to add another side and a lid. So that's 2 more. Coming down through side 1. So now I've got 3 sides. Reinforcing it, just going through all those again. And I'm going to come up through that last one here. And then I'm going to turn to our last side. And what am I missing here? I've got a bottom, I've got a side and a side, but I don't have a lid. So I'm just picking up 1 this time. Putting that lid on. And now I've got a complete square. And now this is just that reinforcing going around. So you can see how much thread this uses, a lot. But it's very strong when you reinforce it like that. So there it is, there's 2 rows. And that's the whole bracelet until we put the clasp on, is repeating what we just did there. So I'm gonna go back and start another one. And so again, it's 0.8 that I'm using today, but you can use 0.6, that will be fine. And 50 inches is a good starting length, more or less, depending on, you know, if you already know what your comfortable working length is, just cut that, because you'll definitely be adding thread. And we're going to show how to do that. And then I use pliers to flatten the Wildfire to make it easier to thread. Size 10 beading needle. They look like that. Going through there, there we go. And bring down about 7 to 10 inches, whatever makes it a good length. And then leave a 10-inch tail. We'll use that later to put on the clasp. Now I'm using size 6 seed beads today. You can use 6, 8, you can use 11, 10. There's patterns out there that mix up sizes. There's a lot you can do. So when you get this stitch down, take a look at some other patterns. You'll be really excited because it's the same process to make all of those. You can use any beads you want. So here's the tail I've got. I need to make that about 10 inches long. I kind of use my mat to measure that sometimes because I have it's a little over 10 inches, but it's close enough. So use that. 4 on the strand. And this is my working side. So this is the side my needle's on. And this is the tail side. I'm going to come back through the tail side, through all of those beads. Keep going. And you'll get something that looks like that. Come back through that first bead. And you get that, you know, familiar right angle weave square look. And then I recommend going through them all again, especially this first segment. You can kind of skip it later as you're going through. In the middle of your bracelet, reinforcing every single stitch. You may not need to do that once you've built your foundation, but I kind of do it sporadically. I do it when I feel like it's too loose and I can't get it to tighten. And then sometimes it seems fine and I just skip it. So just, you know, you'll get the gauge of that. But there's segment 1. And so right angle weave, you're sharing one side when you build each segment. So here's one segment. My second segment, and I might do that in a new color. I think that might help. My second segment only needs 3 beads because it's already got 1. So we're always building these little series of 4 beads around. And now I'm just going through them all again.
Hi, Danielle, it's Carmi.
Hey.
I think using different colors for each segment is going to be the most helpful.
Okay, good. That's good to know. Yeah, the last one I was thinking, you know, highlighting the lid, but now I'm like, this might be better. And that is how I did this one. And so I went through everything again, and now I'm just weeding so that I can be exiting from this further point, the furthermost point of this segment here. And then the next thing I'm going to do is put another side on it. So just 3 more. And once you have that on there, go through it again too. And so what you're seeing here is 3 segments so far that we've built. And now I want to be exiting again from my furthest on the edge. All right. So there's the one we started with, and then the 2 we just built. And each of them share the arm of the last one. So now we want to make that into a cube shape. And so what's missing here, if you think about what's going to happen when we make another cube, we need another side. But when we bring these 2 sides together, it's already going to have a bead on this side and a bead on that side. So you just need a top and a bottom. So what we're going to do is we're going to pick up a bead and then go through this one over here. It's going to fold it together into a box shape and put a lid on it. And when we're done with that, because it's gonna fold up and it's gonna be hard to follow after this, but after I do this and it folds on itself and this one's on the top, we're gonna do that same thing again. We're exiting from here, picking up the bottom bead and going through that one. And then you have a cube. You know what I might do? I might show it this way. Let's see. So you see we just went there. Now I'm coming up this way with my new bead. So there's the top, and that's going to be the bottom. So I'm just going to pull it. And there we go. The top and the bottom, and those 2 sides put together. And you've got a little cube. It's a perfect cube. Reinforce it, go through all those beads again. Oops. And this reinforcing, it is optional, but it's just something that I still do it all the time. And I always do those first 2 rows like this. And it uses a lot. You know, it uses a lot of thread, but it's still, I think it's worth doing because it makes it easier later. There we go. Now we've got 4 sides. So we want to build on top of that, rows and rows on top of that. All the rows after this, they're all going to have a bottom bead already. And then the last one's going to share a bead with its 2 sides, just like we did here. So I'm going to I'll switch to this one. Seems like it's the furthest away from here. So you'll need to pick up 3 more. And just like when we were, creating the first little section, you're creating a new segment here. So this looks a lot like when you're just building it flat. And then I'm doing that same thing again, going through those beads all over again to make it tighter. So now I've got those 2 sides. So I'm turning it now. I'm just rotating it. And if you're working from that other side and you rotate it the other direction, that's totally fine. It won't hurt it. I'm going to add another side here, but I've got this one and I've got this one already. I just need to add this one and this one. So here's those 2 sides going. Oops, sorry. So there's our new square. Go through this all again really quick. Once you get really good at creating this stitch, you may or may not feel the need to reinforce it like I'm doing. Because if you can work through these steps really fast, you don't have time to loosen up. And that's always an option, but I'm going slow, so it really helps if I go around it extra time. So I'm exiting from this bead, and going through this one, which is the bottom of my next side. I'm picking up 2 new beads so that I can have one side and a top. So going through here. And through there. So there's that third side made. And I'm skipping my reinforcing on this one. Why? Because it seems great. It doesn't feel like it needs it. So I'm good with that one. I'm turning it. I already have 3 sides here. I just need a top. So pick up another bead. And there I go. So there's 2 rows done. Now I'm just going through to weave around to get to the top. And you'll notice in the handout, there's an optional step after each row for you to go around them all. So that would mean, I'll show what that looks like, going through each of these one time. And on the last page of the handout, it talks about doing that and picking up a little 11 and then doing it for an embellishment. So that's something you can play with, see if you like it, but it's optional. You don't have to do that step unless you feel it's adding strength to your piece. If your piece is loose, definitely do that. It'll help you tighten it up at that stage. I'm thinking I'll throw another row on this one. I just do it in a solid color. And then we can either start again. In fact, yeah, I think we'll definitely start one more. And show that, stage where we make the cube one more time. If you guys agree, I think that it can't hurt to show it one more time.
I agree, Danielle.
Yeah, I figured this one's worth going through because once you got it, this is all that's left to do. And it's just straight on till the end of your bracelet. But there's one side. So this is my 3rd row. I'm going to do my whole 3rd row in yellow. And I just need to add 3 beads to that. I'm going to turn it and put 2 sides on here. Finding 2 beads. So always in that right angle weave circle. And notice how it's getting tighter. So this is my 3rd row. Remember my last row, I had to reinforce every stitch. But look, they're doing great. And that does tend to happen as you're working. You'll notice that the need to do that reinforcement is less and less every row. There's still some times where I feel like I need to add it, but for the most part, it seems to work really well. So there's the 3rd side. Here's our 4th side, and all we need is a top here. So you've got the others. Put the top on there. And there's the 4th side. And then all you would do is just keep going just like that. Weave to this one. Optionally go around or not. And then just keep building segments that way. Okay, so I'm going to grab some new thread. And again, that's the 0.8. There you go. I'm using some chain pliers to flatten it. And then trimming it at, I'm not cutting this much myself, but if you're making your full-length bracelet, about 50 inches. And you want to thread a needle. I'm using size 10 beading needles for this project. They're pretty good, especially since I'm working with size 6 beads. And even with the 8s, I think the size 10 is perfect for that too. Fold it down about 7 inches or so. And leave a 10-inch tail. And then pick up 4 beads. Let's bring that down. 10-inch tail there. And I'll come back through all of them. Oops. There we go. You'll get something that just looks like that. Go through that first bead again. When you pull, you'll get that square shape. I'm going to reinforce it by going through all those beads again. Oops. And so what we're going to do is build 2 more sides. And the sides, they just look like this, segments. So that we have 3 like that. And we share an arm with each one. So for the next one, you only need to pick up 3 beads. And then just go back through that last bead there. And you'll get another side. And it looks wonky at first. I'm going to reinforce it. So all I'm doing is just going through all of them again really fast. There you go. And they tighten up a lot when you do that. I need to be over here exiting, so I'm going to go through the next 2. And pick up 3 more. And that. And this is that same step again, where I'm going around all of those beads again. To exit from the one on the furthest side. Okay, 3 segments there. That one, the one we started with, and the 2 we just added. And so this is that, the only step that's even remotely complicated in this is watching how we turn this into a 3D cube. So this is a side, and that's a side, and this is the top and the bottom. And what I'm going to do is come out of this one, pick up a bead, go through that one. Then I'm going to pick up that bead and come back through this one to make that first cube pop into shape. So pull that, come up through there. And there's the cube. And then I always go around it one more time. And then exit from the next one, which is my top. And so now I want to build rows this way. And at this step, you optionally could go through each of these beads, this one, this one, this one, to make it reinforced. I found, especially when I was making this one earlier today, that if you're going to reinforce going through each segment you add twice, you can skip that step pretty readily and not have a strand crossing this direction. I'm not sure if that makes any sense, but on the other note, if you're wanting to, you can add a little size 11 or size 10 at that step. This is in black, so it's a little harder to see, but what I've done is I put a little black size 11, and what I did is I went around 11 here, go through this one, pick up an 11, go through that one, and so you could add that as a embellishment step if you're liking it. But so what I'm going to do next is add our next row. So I'm picking up 3 beads, kind of the same as what we did before, but this time we're building, up instead of aside. There's that first segment. Through. And I'm thinking I'll do a few rows like this, just so you guys can get the feel of seeing it, and we'll do a different color every time, so we can get the feel of what row we're on. There's side 1 of row 2. So I'm flipping it, and I'm rotating it this way. Now I'm going to go down through this bead, and then I want to go through this one. I'm going to put the rest of the second side on. I only need 2 beads now because I have that side and that side already. Going through those again. And there's the second side. Reinforcing it. Okay, now I'm going to go up through this bead. And we turn it one more time. And again, we see we have a side and a bottom. So we just need a top and another side. So just 2 more beads now. And back through there. And we get that square. And I'm just going through them again. And so I'm going to turn it, and you'll see on this side we're missing just the top because we've come full circle now. So I went through the bottom and side to join, putting the top on it, and back to that side. So there's row 2 done. And I'm going to reinforce that. And so let's put the 3rd row on there. So I'm picking up the first 3 beads on my 3rd row. And so I've got a bottom bead, but I don't have any sides. So that's why on this the first segment you make of every new row, you'll pick up 3. Then you'll need 2 sets of 2 and then a 1. So it's just like 3, 2, 2, 1, 3, 2, 2, 1 the whole way. And I'm going through them all twice so that they'll be tighter. Okay, so there's that first side. And so something I got asked a while ago was, does it matter if I come over here? So a lot of stitchers tend to always work in one direction. In this stitch, I really don't think it matters. I think if you wanted to, you could go this way. You've probably noticed I keep going this way. I don't know, my brain just wants to do that. It doesn't actually change the stitch. So you can go in this direction too and get the same result. So whatever feels right to you, as long as you're following that convention where you're adding a side where you need it and going through the other bead that's there already, you'll have it figured out. And this is just me reinforcing. And now I want to build this next side. So I'm turning it and seeing what's missing. I've got a side and a bottom. I need another side and the top. So I need to get over there too. So I'm going to go over there. I'm picking up 2 more. Oops. Here it is. Come down through the side. Lid goes on, side goes on. Let me go through this one. Come up through this one. I'm just going to reinforce that again. Seems kind of loose this time. There you go. I'm coming back up through the side because this is going to be where I start my next one. Turning it again. What's missing? I've got a bottom, got 2 sides, but I don't have a top. Just need 1 bead this time. And come down through the other side. Now I've got a top. And so it ends up being a really fun repetition of creating these little 4-sided cubes as you go along. And so once you've done this a few times, you'll see it so well, you won't even really need to pay attention to where you are. So what I mean by that is, like, you'll know what you've added. If you have to set it down, go answer the phone or something, and you come back and look at it, you don't need to mark your stitches or anything. You're going to be able to tell, oh yeah, I just need a side here. This is where I'm exiting. And right angle weave in that way is very forgiving. I'm going to show on this sample one more time what I mean. It's forgiving in that you can always figure out where you are, and you can go whatever direction you need to and fix something, as long as you haven't gone like that, right? That's the only thing that can really disrupt the structure of the stitch is if you cross intersections like that. But if you're following this repetition of, you know, going circularly through every bead, you got it, no problem. So here's another one where the first 3 segments are already made. And I'm going to just show joining it one more time. This is my working thread exiting over here. This was the tail I had. So I'm just leaving that out of the way. And I'm going to use a different color, but picking up a bead, it's going to be my lid. And this is my side, and this is my side. So going down through this one. Pick up another one. And going down through that one. And so that makes a little 4-sided cube. And it'll be loose when you first construct it, but if you go around, it'll tighten it up. And so I've gone around 1 full rotation. I've got a pretty tight stitch. And now here's what I mean by it's forgiving. So let's say I don't remember, is this the top that I was going to work from next, or is this? Doesn't matter. If you want to come over and start working on this side, maybe you weave over there. Maybe you go this way instead of going clockwise like I've been going. Can't tell if you guys are, I think you're not reversed for me. Like Zoom corrects that, but I'm not sure. So if I'm giving you the wrong direction, sorry. Left, right, you know, it doesn't matter which side you work from here. You could even come over here and start. It's all the same everywhere on all sides. So whichever side you're on, you feel like building from. Now you're deciding. This is going to be my top, right? And then the next row, and the next row after that. Okay, and so I'm thinking, unless anyone has any questions, I'll switch to showing how to put a clasp on next.
Danielle, I agree. We should go to the clasp.
Awesome. Okay, so here's one I built earlier. And I got to the end here and I got short. And I figured that's going to happen to all of us multiple times as we're making this. So here's how to add thread really quick. First, you'll just want to, I'm really close to the end. I'm 1 row away from being done. So I'm not going to cut as much thread, but if you were in the middle of your bracelet, just go for your intro working length, just like you had at the beginning. I'm cutting too much for what I need here, sorry. Okay. And this little plier trick to get it threaded really nicely. Size 10 beading needle. Going through there. Okay. Here's my old working thread. I let that get a lot shorter than I should have, but there it is. And the cool thing about this stitch is, you know how when we're weaving in, if you change direction 3 times, it locks? Well, this is nothing but changing direction over and over again. So thread locks sooner. You don't have to weave around as much as you would like in herringbone, for example, or even peyote. I feel like this is easier to weave in. See, I'm just going around one of those little segments. And I'm going to keep doing that until this stops moving. So let's see, where am I? I'm here in this yellow bead. I'm going to go back through. It's still moving. I don't want it to move. And it doesn't matter which way you go. You can go any direction you like. I'm just going purposely in circles now. Still moving, so I'm gonna go again. So that's one of the first times I've seen it not move. If I pull really tight, I can get it to budge a little bit, but it's pretty solid. I might go through a couple more because I need to get up here. And then I think it'll be really tight. Leaving that. Here I am at the top row. And I'm going to trim that tail. This is my old working thread. Ignore it for now. I'm going to make another row or two and then weave it in. I'm going to quickly throw a row in here. Get that tail thread out of the way there. And on this one, I'm not going to reinforce it because this is going to end up being my last row. And I'm going to end up weaving my clasp into it. So it's going to get a reinforced step. So you'll notice I'm sort of skipping that now. And 2 beads, turning it. There's side number 2. And I need to get to this bead and then through that one. So I'm going through these beads again. That one, down through that one, and then through this one on the 3rd side. There's that. 2 more. Going through this side and that side. Sorry, I might need to tighten that last one. I feel like it's not super tight, but there we go. That's side number 3. And now I just need to put the top on side number 4. And up. And I only need 1 bead, right? So I'm going to go through all of these beads now. Oops. Come back up through that one. Back up through that one. Okay. And so this is where the clasp is going to go. And so depending on the kind of clasp you're using, you might be able to just create this without putting the hardware on. But if you're using something with a built-in jump ring, let me show you what I mean by that. These little magnetic clasps from Michaels have a built-in hoop on it. Now you could add a jump ring to that and attach it, but if you wanted it direct connected, you would need to add it now. You'd add your 2 11s, clasp, and then your 2 11s. But if you're using a toggle and you're going to be attaching that with a jump ring, you can just not worry about your hardware just yet and just go ahead and put the beads on and add a jump ring later. So that's what I'm going to do here. And I'm just grabbing some size 11s. Got those ready. And just pick up 4. You could pick up more or less if you like. I think 4 is maybe the minimum I'd go with 11s, but if you wanted to do 6, you could. I think 4 looked nice over here. So I'll probably stick with a 4 on this one. And again, you could use 10s here in place of the 11s if that's what you have or what you like to use. And so here's the top that we just made. And you see how it's that square we recognize. We're exiting from here. What we're going to do with these 4 beads is we're going to get them to sit across like that. But I want them to sit centered. I don't want them to, move around. So I'm going to pay attention to where my thread's exiting and which side of this bead I go through. So I'm exiting this way. So I want to go through this way. And that's just so it centers itself, right? I'll show you what I mean. I can unhook my thread there. So now it's one side versus another until I go through them all again. It's going through them all again. And so remember, we were exiting this side before. I'm going to go through that side. And what that does is it creates kind of a hugging of the thread. I'll show you on the side after I tighten it. So there's those 2, those 4, sorry, they popped into place, but look what the thread's doing here on the side. It's hugging either side of this bead, exiting from that side and then going through that side, which just kind of has a nice effect of centering it. just right on the top. And with the 6s, I keep looking at this thinking it would actually even be greater if I did 10s, because the 10s would cover more. I think the 11s are fine too, though. So I'm going back through all those 11s again. Get this out of the way here. And this is just reinforcing the stitches that I have here. I'm going to go through the C bead on the other side. And now it doesn't really matter which direction, because you know what we're doing. We're going through one and then coming up and going through them again. And so then I would exit the other side, go through here, and then weave in. So let's do that really quick. If you start to get your, you know, where it gets tight, we're using 0.8, so it's going to get tight going 3 times through an 11-0. Use your pliers to pull it. It also helps to try not to, you know, pierce the thread. It's hard to do, but if you do that, it'll be even harder to get your needle through it. And I'm going to go this way. Center. And now I'm going to go down through this bead. And all I have to do now is weave in. And you remember how we didn't reinforce the last row we made? I did that just because I knew I was going to need to weave in. So that's what I'm doing now. Is that reinforcing stuff? Using that as part of my weaving in. And then not to forget the old working thread here. I'll do the same thing with that. Does anyone have any questions about weaving in while I'm showing that? I'm just changing direction 3 times. I think this is my 3rd already, but I might go through one more for symmetry because I've gone through 3 sides. I want to go through my 4th side. And the 4th side. And there we go. So pretty good connection there for a clasp. I can really quickly show putting a clasp on there if anyone wants to see that. It's the same process on the other side. You would take your tail thread, those 10 inches we left over here, and just create that same process and weave in. And any clasp you like. Doesn't matter if it's a toggle, a lobster claw, or just putting a jump ring on. Anything works that you like to use that you've got in your stash or you thought looks cool. Show my jump ring trick real quick. I really like these bent nose pliers for that, and flat nose. So it makes it really easy just to kind of very easily see what I'm doing. Under there. So there's what a lobster claw would look like. And it makes it almost disappear as far as closures and connections go. I feel like it's a clean one. It's one of those ones that's kind of nondescript and it just blends into your bracelet and it just looks like your clasp is attached to the end of the rope. All right, so
Danielle, I think you're doing great for time.
Yeah.
Because you used by adding in those extra beads, you actually finished the edge. If you have enough time, maybe you just want to show the other side.
Yeah. So the finished of this side?
Yeah, that you would do the exact same thing, right?
Yeah, I can do that really quick. So it's that same process we followed before. We're just gonna go ahead and thread a needle onto your tail. Remember we left a 10-inch tail over here. Just for this purpose. Exit from one of the top beads. And then pick up 4 size 11 or size 10s. exiting from this side. I'm going to turn it so you can see the top view. But what we're going to do is we're exiting from this side. We're going to go through this side, back through all the beads, and then come back and meet our thread this way, so that each side's hugging the bead. The thread's going on both sides. So it looks like that. And come back up through all of them. So that one's hugging both sides. I need to go through that side. The thread's exiting here. I just want to go through that one. And this centers it right there on the top. And there's, you know, so many ways you can close a stitch like this, but this is just one of many ways. It also happens to be the easiest way I know. So that's why I thought we'll focus less on clasp and more on, you know, the stitch this time. But that said, there's some very elaborate and beautiful closures once you get the hang of it that are fun. It's really fun to experiment with ending this stitch because it's got a lot of potential real estate for creating a really cool closure is what I'm trying to get at. You've got all these connection points, right? So thinking about, well, what could I do with that? So I went through that twice. You should probably go through it 3 times if you can. I think I did that on the last one. It starts to get tight. It can help to use some pliers.
That was great, Danielle. It just showed it. Tonight we're finding out that 3rd time's the charm to see the demonstration, and we got to see the clasp twice. So that should get everybody all the information they need.
Yeah. Hopefully, I'm hoping that helped. And the only other thing you have to do after that is just weave in like we did before. Just follow your thread path around.
Perfect.
Let's see. Before I switch my camera, just while I have the mat, I was going to throw the necklace for next week on the mat so it can be seen really clearly. So this was a class we did in October. It was an earring. It wasn't a necklace. It was just, we made 2 of these flowers and we put them on an ear wire. Really cute and really fun. And during that class, we had a bunch of really great suggestions. Someone asked about it becoming a bracelet, and someone asked about it necklace, and I couldn't resist, and so I tried it. And this is one of many ways you can use these little floral. Next week's class, we're gonna go through what these are, make one of them again, and then we'll put this together, and then I'll quickly show how to add a little stitch chain to it. And this chain was also a class that we did. It was called the Wavy Herringbone Multi-Strand. And this stitch is just comprised of a single column of herringbone stitch made with 10s, 8s, 6, and then 8 back to 10s. You could also use 11 in place of 10. Yeah, so next week, grab some of your favorite colors and we'll have a lot of fun with this one. And so I'm gonna switch my camera back so I can see you guys, or you can see me. And now I see Mary and I see Doris there at the top of my screen. Hi guys. Yeah, it's always different. Sometimes it's a different people. So I always nice to get to see you guys and say hi. Yeah, so and here's the necklace again for next week. And I'm looking forward to next Friday with you guys, and thank you for being here tonight. Have a good night and a creative weekend.